stay very calm, Patricia, and answer my questions slowly and quietly. And if you can manage a little catch in your throat every once in a while, that's great. Only don't overdo it and start moving your head. You have a pinched vertebrae, remember? Excuse me a minute. Well, what do you say? How are you doing, Ray?
Charlie, isn't that a little bit much even for you? Nurse, orderly, wheelchair?
Yeah, I tried to get a doctor, too, only all of my really good guys are out of town testifying. So, what brings you here as if I couldn't guess?
Charlie, that complaint against J.B. Fletcher's the sack of chicken feathers, and you know it.
Oh, I don't think a jury will see it that way. Have you met the lady? I hear she's a real busybody.
We're not going to settle.
Who's talking about settling? We're talking $50 million here. So it takes 3 or 4 years to get on the docket. So what? I mean, for numbers like that, I've got the patience of Job.
So do we. I'm on my way right now to see the detective on the case, Lieutenant Lewis.
Well, you got yourself a long trip. Lewis died. Last year, a heart attack. Who you really ought to talk to is the state's chief witness, Angelo Vitello, only I'm not going to let you do that. Not just yet.
What are you talking about?
It's all here, Ray. I took his deposition last week at his home. You and Mrs. Fletcher might want to look that over, and then we'll have a talk. Hey, nice seeing you.
Mrs. Fletcher?
Yes.
Hi, Sergeant Paulson. You probably don't remember me. I worked with Lieutenant Lewis on the Eddystone murder case.
Oh, yes, of course. Nice to see you again.
I don't blame you for not remembering me. I was a size 36 back then. That was right before my wife left me, and I was passed over for sergeant for 3 straight times. Kind of, went to my waistline a little bit.
Yes, of course. Well,
I guess they told you about the lieutenant dying last year?
Yes, I was so sorry to hear that.
Me too. He was my rabbi. Guardian angel. I kind of miss the guy. Well, anyway, what can I do for you?
Well, I'm not really quite sure. You see, I wanted to review the case with him. The fact is, Sergeant, I am being sued.
No kidding. What for?
Well, Edward Stone's daughter claims that my involvement in the case led to her father's conviction.
Well, she sure's got that right. We couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, well, that isn't exactly what I wanted to hear.
Believe me, Lewis didn't have a clue until you put him on the right track. Gummy bear?
Oh, no, thank you.
Mrs. Fletcher?
Oh, Mr. Dandridge.
We have to talk now.
Sergeant, this is my attorney, Raymond Dandridge.
How do you do?
Sergeant Paulson.
Sergeant, would you excuse us for just a moment?
Oh, sure. It's time for my lunch break anyway. If you need to see those files, just say the word, okay?
Thank you.
Mrs. Fletcher, we have trouble, serious trouble. Do you remember a man named Angelo Vitello?
Oh, yes, of course. He was the cab driver who picked up Edward Stone late that night, just a block from the murder scene.
A pretty important witness, would you say?
Oh, yes. He was the key to the case.
I was afraid you were going to say something like that. You see, Mr. Vitello has suddenly had a change of heart. He says the only reason that he identified Edward Stone was because you talked him into it. And he says that you paid him $5,000 to lie under oath.